Shalom. First and foremost, I'd like to give all praise, glory, and honors to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahushai, Bahashem, Rakat Kodash. Double honors to the apostles of Great Millstone who rule well. Peace and salutations unto the elect of the nation of Israel. This is your brother Ayash Gabar from the GMS Virginia camp, coming at you with another lesson that I pray that you find edifying through the spirit and power of Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahushai, and Salakia. The Spirit's been on me quite often, to do a lesson right when I wake up, all groggy and shit. But, so, this is why I sound the way I sound, and if you hear me yawning, Salakia for that. Anyhow, anything can happen at any time, where one event from all hell breaking loose, where one event from food shortages, where one tanker away from energy issues, where one incident away from a financial collapse, where one idiot away from World War III, so anything can happen at any time. And, you got to constantly keep your head on that swivel because when things go down, you might not be where you think you want to be. And you might not ever make it to where you might want to go, because it's going to be like that, or it could be like that, I should say. You could be at work and all hell breaks loose. The next thing you know, they just locking things down, and they're locking it down quick because let's not be ignorant of the fact that, a couple of years ago, I want to say last year, maybe the year before, where, they put an order out, to have the National Guards on standby in every state. I believe that was last year, coming into this year. But they wanted to have the National Guards on deck in every state, and that's nothing short of a staging ground. And then on top of that, you got ICE out there doing their thing, so you're not at a point where you should feel relaxed. You should constantly be paying attention as to what's going on, because like I said, they could just lock everything down and you're stuck right where you're at. And at that point, or should be at every point, you should be leaning upon Yahweh Bashem Yahushai and pray that pray that you're able to make it through whatever it is, your lot is. If your lot is to be saved, pray on that. Pray that you're one of those men that can be delivered. 2/3, they just don't know what the fuck is going on. They just can't conceive that it's gonna get as bad as we say it's going to get. Let me grab this scripture right quick, because when I go into work, a lot of times I go in with the mindset of I might not ever make it back home, because we're in that time where, you got to consider these things. You got to consider, being stuck where you're at. The book of Second Esdras, chapter 15 and verse 17. A man shall desire to go into a city and shall not be able to, especially if you live at a place where you don't have multiple ways to get in and out of your neighborhood. You know, if you don't have that understanding of, you know, being able to get in and out of your neighborhood in multiple directions, then one entrance can be blocked, and you not knowing another way to get to where you need to go is open. So you just might get stuck. And the mentality of these people is that herd mentality. When they hear shit going down, everybody wants to leave right then, right now. And what that does is creates a gridlock to the point where you can't move, especially if you're driving. If you're driving and everybody jumps in their cars, to get to where they want to go, and let's say, for example, if shit goes down and you have an hour, one hour to get home. Well, if you're within miles of where you work, that's not a problem. You could just walk home. But if you're like 10, 15, 20, 30, or even 40 miles away from home, well, that's a difficult task, because now everybody wants to get home all at once. Everybody wants to go to where they need to go right away. And that mindset creates a situation where everything just becomes bottleneck, to the point where you can't move. If you have a bike, yeah, okay, you could jump on your bike and, just weave in and out of traffic. If you have a motorcycle, yeah, you might be able to do some things until you can't, so when shit goes down, have it in your spirit to understand you might get stuck where you're at, and you might have to move from there, wherever Yahweh Bashim Yahushua takes you, As a matter of fact, a scripture just came to mind. Let me see. Let me get this. Salakia bros. Let me see. It's in the book of Matthew. Let me see where I want to start. I started the book of Matthew, chapter 24, and verse 37. But as the days of Noe were, as Noah, so shall the coming of the Son of Man be. For as in the days that were before the flood, they were eating and drinking, marrying and giving in marriage, until the day Noah entered into the ark, and knew not until the flood came. And what does the scripture say about a flood? Well, another flood is about to come. When the enemy shall come in like a flood, and took them all away, so shall the coming of the Son of Man be. Then shall two be in the field, and then shall two be in the field, the one shall be taken and the other left. Two women shall be grinding in the mill, the one shall be taken and the other left. Watch therefore, for ye know not what hour your Lord cometh. Let me see. Now this might not have been the scripture. Let me see. Let me see. Nope, Khan. That was the scripture. That was the scripture. Salakia for that. Because, as a matter of fact, there's another scripture I wanted to get. Let me see. It is in the book of Matthew. I think I was looking for the wrong one. Salakia Bros. This was the one I wanted. Salakia Bros. The book of Matthew. It was. Let me bookmark this. Salakia Bros. Salakia. This was it. The book of Matthew, chapter 24, and verse 15. When ye therefore shall see the abomination of desolation spoken by Daniel the prophet stand in the holy place, whoso readeth, let him understand. Then let them which be in Judah flee into the mountains. Let them which is on the housetop not come down to take anything out of his house. Neither let him which is in the field return back to take his clothes. Woe unto them that are with child, and them that give suck in those days. And that's the point I wanted to get at. You know what I'm saying? Because you might be in a situation where you might not be able to make it home, but in your mind, you're thinking about getting home. You know, that might not be the wisest thing to do. You know what I'm saying? So, you know, and these are the things that you got to prepare your mind for, because the scriptures did say that a man shall desire to go into a city and shall not be able, you know, and that can happen at any time, especially if anything pops off, you know, because the idea is to control the situation, control the flow of people, control, you know, the mindset that the people have, you know, because when you do that, then you control the outcome. But the scriptures also say that it's going to get that bad where, you know, this devil's going to lose control. So, you know, these are just things that you need to prepare your mind for. You know, you might get stuck right where you at. You know, the book of 2 Esdras, chapter 14 and verse 16. For yet greater evils which thou has seen happen shall be done hereafter. You know, like I said, you know, all it takes is one thing to tip everything. You know, it's like that house of Jenga. You know, if you pull out that one block, you know, you might see the structure shake, but it didn't fall. You might pull out another block, you know, you'll see the structure lean to and fro, but it won't fall. And it won't fall until it's at the point where you pull that one block out of that one in particular position, and then the whole structure collapses. And when that happens, you're going to see evil upon evil happen. You're going to see judgment upon judgment happen, especially to you 2/3 Jakes, because, you know, the doors of mercy is still open unto you, you know, and the crazy thing is, you don't even understand who's giving you the mercy, because when the doors of mercy shut, you're not going to, well, you might realize that it was open to you and you missed it, you know. Here it is, you spent your entire life collecting coupons for a sale that you think is going to happen, and when the sale happens, you miss it, and now you got all them coupons that ain't worth shit because the time expired. Well, the prophets are out there, you know, handing out spiritual you know, handing out these spiritual prophecies, you know, those coupons, you know, warning you or letting you know that, you know, the sale is open, you know, the doors are open, you know, but you're waiting for the wrong things, Jake. Jake, are waiting for something that isn't going to benefit you. You know, no red man is going to come out the sky to deliver you. There will be no Beavis, you know, to, you know, for you to lean upon. You know, so a lot of you Jakes are just going to be caught up in your own shit. Let me see. The book of Jeremiah, chapter 18 and verse 21, because even Jeremiah was pissed off with you people that, you know, didn't take heed. You know, we're warning you that, you know, you're being encamped round about by your enemies. You know, we're out there telling you through the spirit and power of Yahweh Bashem Yahushai what is soon to come to pass. You know, the book of Second Esdras, you're in it. The book of Isaiah, you're living it. The book of Jeremiah, you're going to go through it. The book of Daniel's, it's happening. But a lot of you people don't even consider those books. If it isn't in the NT, you don't want to hear it. Not realizing that all of the apostles from the NT quoted the so-called Old Testament. That was their foundation. And their foundation was built upon Yahweh Shai. He comes in the volume of the book. It was written of him. And you missed that. Because you people are looking for something else. And you're going to be destroyed. you're going to be destroyed. Looking for a nation that could not save you. And Jeremiah was pissed off with you niggas and nigglets because you just didn't want to listen. And this is what Jeremiah said after, you know, you niggas and nigglets were still wicked. The book of Jeremiah, chapter 18 and verse 21. Therefore, deliver up their children to the famine and pour out their blood by the force of the sword. In the modern day sword is the pew, and let their wives be bereaved of their children and be widows, and let their men be put to death. Let their young men be slain by the sword in battle. This is about to happen again, but on a higher level. The famine is going to come, and the famine is one of those Jenga blocks that could cause everything to fall. You know? The constant, you know, spewing of Jake's blood by these other nations could be one of those Jenga blocks that's ready to fall and pour out their blood by the force of the sword. Yeah, you know, these nations are doing just that. And let their wives be bereaved. Yeah, that's happening too. You know, so I mean, anything is liable to cause this place to tip and fall. You know, and where is your spirit at? Where's your heart, you know, concentrating on? Jumping down to the book of Jeremiah, chapter 18 and verse 22. Let a cry be heard from their houses when thou shalt bring a troop suddenly upon them. That's that flood. That's that flood that's coming. You know, again. You know, it happened once and it's going to happen again. But this time it's going to be worse. For they have digged a pit to take me and hid snares for my feet. You know, and that's referring to you wicked Jakes. Because remember, don't forget that Yahweh Bashem Yahushai didn't forget what y'all niggas said when Yahushai was, you know, being crucified. You know? Because for by thy words thou shalt be justified, and by thy words thou shalt be condemned. And what did y'all say when Yahweh Shai was being crucified? You know, his blood be on us and our children. Well, that blood is coming. You jakes are going to be locked in, and you're not going to be able to move. You're going to be easy pickings for when these troops come. And quite honestly, it doesn't matter where you go, because your judgment is going to follow you. The Lord's people are led as a flock to the slaughter. Because when they lock when they lock this place down and you have nowhere to go, it's only going to get more and more and more compact. Because all they got to do is just move the barricades closer and closer together, to compact you into one confined environment. You see what I'm saying? And that's typically how it works. You might be in a situation where they might lock down a bridge, lock down a tunnel, lock down the main avenue. Yeah, okay, they might do those things. And then from there, they'll lock down side streets, but still keep the bridges locked. The tunnels, the main highways and byways. They'll lock those things down, but then they'll start moving out into the streets and start locking down certain neighborhoods and keep those neighborhoods locked down. And then over time, move closer and closer towards the center of that neighborhood, preventing those people within that confined space from moving out. Then what are you jakes going to do? Because at that point, they could do whatever it is that they want to do to you. And Jake isn't even considering these things because Jake doesn't understand it can happen. Jake just doesn't believe it can happen. Anyhow, this was just a quick lesson that was on my spirit when I woke up because, hey, when all hell breaks loose and these people go after each other next and starts breaking into everybody's home, the scriptures also say that the doors should be shut, or the doors should be shut up, that no man might come in. It's going to be that bad where, a lot of you jakes are going to be looking for this sort of protection, this sort of lockdown, because, if you're locked down, then a lot of people have that sense of security of some form of justice being performed, not understanding that this is to your own detriment. Woe unto them that go down to Egypt for help. Yeah, lock it down. Save us. Get them off the street. Yeah, okay. And they just might do that. But they want something from you. And they're going to get it if you're not of the elect. A lot of you jakes are about to enter into the spirit world. And a lot of those jakes are going to be women. A lot of those jakes are going to be women. Because when the men die in the wars, these women ain't going to have no hedge about them. They're not going to be able to run into the wilderness and, escape. Some might, only of the elect. But you 2/3 women, you're not going to be able to escape. You're going to be had. The scriptures just told you that. Their wives. Well, there's scriptures, that says that your wives should be ravished. It already said that, your children, your young men are going to die in the wars. A lot of you are about to be widows. And you just don't believe it until it happens. So a lot of you are going to realize it's happening when you're in the spirit world. You know, that's how it it may be for some, or should I say for most. You women, bro, oof, oof, oof. You women are gonna get it bad. Understand this. Understand this. For one, a lot of you women don't understand hygiene. A lot of you women don't even know how to take care of yourselves. When you're in the green tree, you know, your stench is gonna be to some unbearable. And you're gonna call yourself hiding out. All you need is a fucking nose to track your ass down in those days. You know? A lot of you won't be wise enough to wear a dress because when a woman wears pants, she has to drop her pants twice every time she has to use the bathroom. She has to drop her pants once in order to urinate, and then she has to drop her pants again to have a bowel movement. A dress, she doesn't have to remove her pants at all. All she got to do is squat. In either case, in squat, wipe, and rinse. Whereas a man only has to drop his pants once, and that's to have a bowel movement. And that level of understanding is something that's gonna cause a lot of women, you know, to get had because, hey, you were told. Yeah, no man, tell me what the, oh, yeah, okay. When these troops have you right where they want you, you're gonna wish you listened. You know, and I didn't mean to get off the subject, but you know, when we do these lessons, you know, the spirit moves the way the spirit moves. But a lot of you women are about to get had out there, and woe unto them that get sucked in those days. Yo, it's about to get ugly. You know. Anyhow, I'll close out on that. I gotta get ready to get up out of here. So with that, I'd like to give all praise, glory, and honors to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahushua, Bahashem, Harakak, double honors to the apostles of great millstone who rule well. Peace and salutations unto the elect of the nation of Israel. Shalom.